Let's look at an example of the drag and drop. So imagine that you got this, and this was an RCP of an office, a reflected ceiling plan of an office, and all that was here when you opened up the exam was just the ceiling grid. And then off to the side, you had a series of small elements that you would have to place into that drawing. So I have a light, I've got a supply diffuser, I've got a return register, maybe there's a couple of other things like an exit sign or something like that, and I have to place them into this office. So we've gone ahead and we've placed the lights. So those are in that location. I've already shown them in. So there's the two lights. And then we put in the return grill right here. So this is the thicker wall, presumably is the outside. And then this is presumably like the corridor towards the in. So having it supply to the outside kind of makes sense, and having the return towards the inside probably makes sense. Where would I best put this supply register? So it's a 2x2 grid. Where should it go? How would I grab it and place it into place? Well, the only possible answers I have once I've located the lights and the return like this, I can't really put it here or here or here or here unless I know for sure those are full 24 by 24 inch panels. But my guess is they're not, and we don't have enough information to know that they're full. So essentially this whole line is out, because that might be a 22-inch wide panel. This is going to be an off-the-shelf piece. It needs to be the full size. So none of those ones along the side would logically be a place to go. But that still leaves open these ones down the middle here, and also these ones along this edge. So where would I put it? Would I put it right here? Well, no, I wouldn't put it right there, because if I put the supply diffuser right there, the air is going to come out and it's going to go whoop right back into the return. It's not going to work. So you should understand that the supply wants to be at least a few feet away, and the question would presumably give you some specific number. But you should know that it should be at least a few feet away so that they don't short circuit each other. So where would it go? Well, I would bet that it would probably go right there, where it's very far away from the return, but it's in a full 2x2 ceiling grid element, so it's easy to sort of grab it, put it into place, know that it's going to be towards the outside wall, it's going to supply the air exactly where you want it, it's going to be reasonably far, although you're not over fretting about it, but it's reasonably far from the return grill. It doesn't get in the way of the two lights. Everything seems to make the most sense. So this would be an example where I'd have a series of these little items and I would grab them and place them into place. And this is essentially taking over the place of the role of the vignette that is currently in 4.0 being used for the systems exam, where you have to do a whole big complicated ceiling layout. So this is a much simpler version. Although you could imagine it could be relatively complicated. It could be a much bigger plan. It could be a more interesting or more sort of complex way of thinking about it. But the idea here is that you have to know enough to be able to find a sort of reasonable balance of lighting. For example, if you had laid it out in such a way that the lights were like right there and right there, well, that's not reasonable. That doesn't light the room up. That's just not a good answer. So it would be able to tell that that's not any good. So you'd have to find a reasonable layout and then a reasonable layout of the return and the supply. So this is kind of an example. We could talk about any topic like this. We could talk about wall sections. We could talk about any number of different ways of sort of putting these pieces of information together. But I think this is kind of a good example of the way that they're likely to be using the drag and drop.